we're going to dive into some game scripts and betting trends. I really like this segment. Great job, producer Drew, coming up with it.
Nice job, Drew.
As of Tuesday afternoon here, guys, 54% of the public handle and 62% of the bets are on the Bengals to cover. And currently, with plus 170 odds, we see 66% of the handle and 65% of the bets on the Bengals money line. What's your biggest takeaway with these numbers, Steve?
It's that the public finally woke up and they understand. Where's my camera? Why am I way over here? The public finally wakes up. Oh my God, the public finally wakes up. Stop it! And they realize that the Bengals thrive in this type of situation. Like, Julian has been someone who's been saying this in the beginning. Oh, they're such a good team, as underdogs because they were underdogs all season long in the beginning because no one knew how good they were going to be. They've been underdogs in 4 of their last 5 games, Julian, which includes 2 of the 3 games in the playoff, and they've covered in all of them. People know that this point spread is too big for the Rams to cover. They're going with the Bengals, who are going to win this game straight up anyways. Get the plus money. Get them with the points there, plus 4.5. That's the bet to take. The public realizes it. Join the party.
Okay, Jules, do you want to join the party?
Where am I looking?
Just straight ahead.
Right
straight
here.
ahead.
So, Steve just used this as an opportunity to say for the 15th time why he likes the Bengals. The question is, what do these numbers tell us? And it tells us that the public, the casual bettor, wants the plus money, they want the underdog, and they want the Cinderella story that is the Cincinnati Bengals. And that's great. But I think that it being as close as it is in terms of handle, you see the ticket count is almost 2/3 on the Bengals, and the money is almost dead even. So despite my opinion that, I think 4.5 is too many. I think that at that number, and I haven't played a side in the Super Bowl, I would probably play the Bengals on the spread. It tells me that sharper bettors, that bigger bettors are taking the Rams here, who are getting no points, half a point for being at home, which is a little different. Last year we had the whole story about Tampa being at home in the Super Bowl. Now it happens 2 years in a row, the second team ever to play at home in the Super Bowl, and it's almost a non-story. The one thing I will say is this. If whoever you're betting, just pick a winner, because in the Super Bowl, the team, it's 47-6-2 ATS, the winner. So whoever you're picking on the spread just wins.
All right, Reid, what kind of tips here could you offer people just by looking at these splits?
Yeah, I mean, if you like one team, you see the number bouncing from 4.5 each time that number hits, like for either side, right? It's getting bet up pretty quickly for the Bengals at 4 and maybe for the Rams at 4.5. But I'm with the guys. If you're choosing a side, like these lines, like good luck trying to find any sort of leverage picking a side or a spread in this one. If you want, like Steve's been doing this thing where he takes the alternate spread on the Bengals or the Rams, like maybe you want to do that just to give yourself a little lean, a little leverage, but I wouldn't. So just wait, right? If you like the Rams, just wait for this number to potentially go back down to 4. I don't think it will, but we've seen within either 6 hours or a day, this number has bounced off the 4 and the 4.5 very quickly. So if you want a side, like if you want the Rams, just wait.
Reid knows your ways.
Oh, we've been together a long time.
Yes,
you should.
Certainly have.
This camera again.
I'm actually a huge fan of this angle. But besides here, Steven, loving the Bengals right now, the public is also expecting a higher scoring game with 55% of the handle, 57% of the bets, like backing the over on the 48.5 point total in the DK Sportsbook. Reid, how do you see this game playing out? Like, what's your game script look like?
Yeah, I think it's going to be similar to what we saw with Tennessee and Cincinnati. This offensive line and this is probably going to be talked about and has been talked about quite a bit, for the Bengals is suspect against the defensive line. Now, you don't blitz. I don't think we're going to get a lot of blitzes from either team, right? Because Stafford and Burrow are number 1 and 2 respectively in efficiency against the blitz. And so we're going to see pressure with 3 or 4 guys with the Rams against this offensive line. That's why I think this is going to be a little bit slower. I think it's going to be an under game, so under the 48.5. And when you take a look at what Cincinnati is doing, to what Steve has been saying for the last month, is they've been bucking all of these trends. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to us who are trying to handicap looking at the stats or the numbers, is that they've been they've had the less EPA per play or yards per play in every game in the playoffs than their opposing team, but they've created turnovers to get to get that extra possession to then win those games, right? They've been closer games, or they've come back. So I do think that this game is going to be a little bit like that Tennessee game, like these games that we've seen from Cincinnati, where they might get down a little bit early but come back towards the end. But I still got the under.
Okay, Julian, your game scripts. How do you see this one playing out? Super Bowl 56.
Yeah, I think the sharp money that came in early on the under is correct, and that's generally the move in these Super Bowls. There are going to be some nerves. I know the Rams have been there, but Stafford hasn't been there. Plenty of other guys on that team haven't been there, and the Bengals haven't been there. I know Joe Burrow, Joe Cool gives off this persona. He's played in the national championship game, the SEC, high school titles. It's still the Super Bowl. So for me, game script-wise, I do lean under, but we can see these start to shoot out in the second half. Just look at, I know it's different offenses, but look at Chiefs and Bills, that if the Chiefs make one stop on 4th and 13, that game might end 26-21. Instead, it's like an all-time shootout. So I lean to the first half under. I really like it at 24.5. 23.5 is a little different. You win versus lose on a 14-10 score. That's a big deal. You can pick your spread. You can pick your total on DK Sportsbook. You can go to alternates. You just got to lay a little bit of juice. So first half under is one that I strongly lean to, and I have a bunch of props that I think fit in with that we're probably going to talk about a little later.
Okay, Steven, talk to me here.
Yeah, I've been kind of going back and forth on this total here. Like Julian mentioned, like this was hammered down immediately when this first opened up at 49.5, but there's a lot of factors that also support, taking the over in this spot. Now, we have two of the better scoring teams in the first half. Julian mentioned that, he likes the under on the first half. Obviously, there's jitters and all that. That's going to be talked about a lot, like that safety with the Broncos and Seahawks was when the first snap went back and they ended up scoring a safety on the first drive of the play. With that being said, the Rams have also been a team that have been successful at hitting the over almost all season long, going 10-9-1. That's also because they scored 30 or more points 7 times during the season while holding opposing opponents to about 21.8 points per game because their defense has been so good. How is that going to play out against the Bengals, who have so many options, a plethora of options that they can go to? So I'm still going to keep flip-flopping on this here. As it stands right now, I think the under is in play at 48.5, but you really can make a case for both sides. I think this is a really well-set number.
Well, Jules, based on your game script and how you see this game playing out, which bets would you be backing?
So one of the props, a couple of kicking props actually. One of the props that I've bet at already is over 6.5 punts. I think we see both offenses punt on their first possession, which I think is something else you can bet in here if you can find it in the Cheesecake Factory style menu on DK Sportsbook. But over 6.5 punts, I think both teams come out a little slow. I think we see a couple on the first possessions, maybe another one in the first quarter. You get to 3 in the first quarter. Now you only need a few more the rest of the way. Both teams have punted 10 times so far in their 3 playoff games. So you combine those, you're looking at, 6 2/3 punts per game. So mathematically speaking, you're just over that number of 6.5. But I think the slow start is what helps it ultimately get there. One of my favorite props, we talked about this on the Unreasonable Odds podcast with professional sports handicapper Bill Krakenberger, who also was on 6.5 punts. The opening kickoff at plus money to not be a touchback. If you want to go back in history here, 7 of the last 8 Super Bowls, the opening kickoff has been returned. This one gets a little dicey because the kick was moved forward in recent years. But over the last 28 Super Bowls, 26 opening kickoffs have been returned. The kickoff comes out of the end zone. They want that for the way that it looks for the game. You have the nerves when the kicker is kicking off, all the flashes in the crowd, and then you have the ball. The ball is not given to the kicker beforehand. It is cracked brand new out of the box, placed there, and as soon as the kickoff is over, it is brought to the Hall of Fame. So Pat McAfee in the past, who was kicked off in a Super Bowl, said it was like kicking a brick. It doesn't get to the end zone. Plus money. This one used to be like getting plus 300 here. It's plus 110. The opening kickoff will not be a touchback.
Dang. Steve, you got a fun strategy like that?
This camera shot again.
It's really
Why don't you start to just
good.
expect it? They've done it every time.
Well, you'd think that when you're complaining about it, just do this one. Do this one now. Change it. Thank you. Thank you very much. These people back here.
Don't look at me.
I'm not going to answer until you change it back. Thank you. Okay. Now, what are we talking about?
We're talking. we're talking about which bets you would back based off the strategy and how you see this game playing out that you shared moments ago.
Yeah, so there's one bet here too, and obviously you're going to be laying some juice, but some of these ones that if you're laying some juice, if there's reason to like it, I mean, I still have no problem taking that, is the Bengals to convert a fourth down conversion. They are 13 for 20 on this during the regular season and the playoffs. That's a 65% conversion rate. That's the third best in the league behind the Chiefs and the Ravens, 25th in attempts as well. If you think that the Rams are going to win this game or be ahead, the Bengals have to make something happen on offense here. So for them going for it on fourth down and making that, you only need them to get one. It's that minus 175. So again, a little bit of juice here that we're talking about, but it feels like a low number for something that this team has not only done well, but have done it often in these type of situations as well. We talk about that slow start. If the Rams do get out to, an early lead, the Bengals could maybe try to do this here. So I do like that there at minus 175 to make a convert a fourth down play.
Okay.
Did you say they're 13 of 20 on the season?
Correct.
So you want to lay minus 175 on something the Bengals have done in 13 times in 20 games?
That's what I said.
God, you're dumb.
Okay.
At unreasonable odds. To see this odd couple.
I was just going to say I love their connection, their relationship, which you can hear on the Unreasonable Odds podcast. But there's no S right on the Twitter handle, Reid.
Drop the S on Twitter.
Go ahead, bud.
So based off of the question, I think we're going to talk about props in a little bit. But I like those two props. That kicking one is awesome, Julian. That's crazy. But the under 48.5, like I mentioned, just because I think the Rams D-line creates a game script that we're not going to get a lot of these massive plays from Joe Burrow. It's still going to happen, right? We're still going to get those, but not as much as we've seen. Cincy taking the air of the ball, too. We've seen long drives from Cincy. And then the Rams' money line. Look, this is like the Bengals are, they might just be the team that's fated to win this Super Bowl in this season. That's great. But I still think when I take a look at the numbers and just how the Rams match up with Cincinnati, taking a side is really tough. If I want to get the points, if I want to take a side, then yeah, absolutely. I think Cincinnati is the right bet. But Rams' money line just feels like the one, and I've been betting against the Bengals. Why stop now? So give me the Rams' money line.
All right, Steve, despite never retweeting any of your teammates or clips from this show.
That's correct.
You remain a solid follow on Twitter. On Tuesday, you tweeted out the most popular Super Bowl prop bets on the DK Sportsbook right now, and most of them align with the public splits that we've already discussed in the show. So are you picking up here what the public is putting down, or what other bets would you expect to be at the top of the board right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially when you're talking about the MVP, like the two quarterbacks are the more popular ones here. That's the position that wins it more often than not. I think it's over 65% of the time a quarterback has won that there. Like, I know there's been some love for Evan McPherson because of how well he's been doing, and they're a big reason why he's here. But a kicker is not going to win this one here unless this game ends up being like 9-3 or something like that, and McPherson is the only one that's basically scoring in this one. I don't see a chance how he wins it here. So I get you want to take McPherson because of how good he's been, especially in the playoffs here, but there's almost no chance that he's going to win this one here. So I think taking the MVPs for the quarterbacks is the right one here. Cooper Kupp's getting some love too as well. 6-1. Obviously, if he can make a big deal, and we've seen him do that before, he's a good candidate, but I still think the quarterbacks are the right place here.
Reid, so right now the top bet, again, according to Steve Buchanan's tweet, Joe Burrow for MVP at plus 225 odds. So that does make sense, right? If most people think the Bengals are going to cover, win, and hit the over.
Yeah, and starting the playoffs, you could have, or I think maybe before the AFC Championship game, you could have got him at plus like 1,000 to be MVP here. So clearly it's gone down, but that's the right call, right? Because you see it's just been a quarterback play, and especially with the whole Joe Burrow, like the legend of Joe Burrow, right? If him not winning this, it just wouldn't be okay for the NFL. And a lot of these writers see what they say about the MVPs. They don't have a lot of time to like get their votes in. So if someone plays okay, if someone plays essentially how they're supposed to play, unless we see 3 interceptions and a return for a touchdown to win the game, it's usually going to go to the quarterbacks. But the one I like, kind of going to what Julian's sort of in his world of special teams, Evan McPherson over 1.5 field goals made for Cincinnati is at minus 120. McPherson has gone 4 for 4 in his last 3 playoff games, and he hasn't gone below this number since week 11. So to see that this number is only at 1.5, and yeah, you got to lay some juice at minus 120. I still think that's pretty comfortable, especially because we've seen Zach Taylor. Once they get past the 50-yard line, McPherson is clearly a threat because of the way he's been kicking. So over 1.5 total field goals at minus 120 for Cincy.
Also, just keep in mind here, maybe potential Super Bowl MVP pick. Steven, no kicker's ever been named a Super Bowl MVP. Our favorite two-shot, once again, coming onto your screen. Jules, what do you think here, dude?
Yeah, so in terms of the MVP stuff, I'm actually not looking at Stafford. I would just go to Cooper Kupp at 6-1. I think that he's a guy. He's gonna win Offensive Player of the Year. He's gonna be top 3 in NFL MVP voting, and has a pretty good path to have a big game here. So I would rather take the 6-1 on Kupp and bet some Rams money line or something, and just bypass Stafford. Burrow for sure. It has to be that game, that regular season game against the Chiefs that Chase had, 250 and 3 touchdowns for Chase to steal it from Burrow. It can't be a defensive player on Cincy. I just don't see how it's not Burrow. So plus 225 on Burrow. If you're a Cincy moneyline backer, I think you need some of that. But former DraftKings guy, Adam Levitan, over at Establish the Run, he had a really good tweet, some same-game parlays that can kind of get you better numbers than betting a straight bet. So if you just bet same-game parlay, Cincy moneyline, and Joe Burrow's passing yardage over, you're looking at plus 300. If Cincy wins and Burrow goes over his passing yardage, you're probably getting a Joe Burrow MVP, and you're getting it at plus 300 there, so you can get just better odds on it. But I think that's a popular one for a reason. I would just look at getting different exposure across the board, different ways to get in there and cover all your bases.
Bukes, Burrow and Stafford to have over 4.5 combined touchdown passes. That goes along with the public script here.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I do like that one a lot, too. And these are two teams that have been throwing it more in the red zone during these playoffs, too, as well. We really haven't seen Cam Akers, Sony Michel, even Joe Mixon hasn't been getting as much love in the red zone as it has during the regular season. So, yeah, I do agree with that a lot.